Welcome to the Wardrobe of Woe, where today we're going to be going over the Blades of Khorne Battleline options. First up, we have Blood Warriors. They have a stat line of 5-inch move, 6 bravery, 2 wounds, and a 4-up save. And they have 2 melee profiles, a Gore Glaive and Gore Axes. The Gore Glaive is 1-inch reach, 2 attacks, 3 for the leader, 3s to hit and 3s to wound, 1 rend, and 2 damage. The Gore Axes is 1-inch reach, 2 attacks, 3s to hit, 4s to wound, no rend, 1 damage. For unique abilities, in terms of equipment, you can either have twin Gore Axes or a Gore Axe and a Gore Fist. 1 in 10 can have the Gore Glaive instead of the Gore Axes. 1 in 10 can have a banner, which lets each model attack with their weapons before they die, which is a really strong ability. And then 1 in 10 can have an icon, which lets them have +1 to their bravery. If you equip them with twin Gore Axes, you can reroll hit rolls of 1. And if you have the Gore Fists, you can get damage bounce back on save rolls of 6s. For Battleline, they are a vicious frontline unit, and since they have that fight on death ability, they can be sent in fairly guilt-free. Because you can potentially get them to fight twice and dish out some damage. They're a pretty nice unit. I would take them in squads of 10 though, because they have 32mm bases, and with only 1-inch reach on their weapons, if you go any higher than that, you're not going to be able to get as many attacks in, really. Or it'll be more difficult to do that. I would also say equip them with twin Gore Axes. I think the Gore Fists aren't all that great, and in my head, the re-rolling ones to hit will get you the damage that you'd get with the Gore Fists and a little bit more just by increasing your accuracy. And for the Gore Fists to work, you have to take damage, or you have to be taking hits, which I think it's better to play into the strengths of the unit, which is to be an offensive beat stick, rather than try and help out in the defense. Next we have Bloodletters. These are your basic demonic Khorne foot soldiers. They have a 5-inch move, 10 bravery, 1 wound, and a 5-up save. Their melee profile is pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie. It's a real shame because these models are really cool. They have a good aesthetic, but Bloodletters are just bad. The Hellblade has 1-inch reach, 1 attack, 2 for the leaders, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, 1 rend, and 1 damage. On these Hellblades, 6s to hit deal a mortal wound in addition to normal damage. If the unit has 20 or more models, they get +1 to their hit rolls. And like most demonic units, 1 in 10 can have a banner or an icon. Really, you always want the icon. The banner is just kind of meh. The icon lets you return D6 models on a battle shock roll of 1, which is a 1 in 6 chance, but getting models back is always helpful. Bloodletters are cannon fodder. You send them in there to die, really. They're not that great. They can do mortal wounds, but again, that's on 6s to hit, which isn't the most consistent. If you are wanting to take Bloodletters, take them in squads of 10 to 20. Their kit doesn't really, or their stats and their weapons don't really synergize with themselves. So they're just kind of an odd unit. They work fine as summons, like if you summon them with blood tithe points, because you don't have to pay for them. So they're just a free unit. In that case, they're fine. But otherwise, it's just kind of meh. Next up, we have the Blood Reavers. They have a 6-inch move, 5 bravery, 1 wound, and a 6-up save. They have 2 different melee profiles. Reaver Blades, 1-inch reach, 1 attack, 2 for the leaders, 4s to hit, 4s to wound, no rend, 1 damage. And the Meat Ripper Axe, which is the same profile except it has 1 additional rend. 1 in 10 can have the icon, which gives the +1 to bravery. 1 in 10 can have a horn, which gives them +1 to run and charge. And if you equip them with the reaver blades, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for all attacks. Additionally, if they are wholly within 12 inches of a Khorne totem unit, they get +1 attacks, which is pretty nice. Kind of helps them be less awful. So Blood Reavers are similar to Bloodletters in that they are just cannon fodder. They're cheap and they can have a lot of bodies to pile on to objectives or to control lanes of movement, kind of force your enemy to think about, okay, I have this Blood Reavers unit here, do I want to go through them or around them? They're good for screening as well. To maximize the efficientness of them, I would take in squads of 10 to 20. They're fairly inefficient as damage dealers, but work okay as screening units. Keep in mind that they won't last long, and larger units are pretty susceptible to battle shock because they have a really low bravery. Next up, we have the goodest of boys. We have the Flesh Hounds, or affectionately known as the Corn Dogs. They have a 8-inch move, 10 bravery, 2 wounds apiece, and a 5-up save. They have a melee profile of 1-inch reach, 4 attacks, 3s to hit and 4s to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. So their missile profile is unique in that the leader of the unit can have this missile profile, which is okay. It's 1 attack, 2s to hit, 4s to wound, no rend, 1 damage. It's there, but it's nothing you want to write home about. Unique to the Flesh Hounds is they can attempt to unbind 1 enemy spell. And if the unit has 10 or more models, you can get a +1 to that unbinding roll. And they have a native reroll charge rolls. Corn Dogs are actually pretty good. For what they are, they have a fairly large amount of attacks and are accurate enough that I'd say that they're one of the better battle line options. They can run after enemy heroes or wizards, kind of push around the edge of the battle and threaten weak points in the enemy's defenses. To maximize the efficiency of Flesh Hounds, take in squads of 5. The +1 to unbind, it's there, but I don't know how worth it that is. I think it's more worthwhile to have a smaller, more maneuverable unit than to have a big, bulky 10-man unit. Next, we have conditional battle line options for the Blades of Khorne, which is basically the same. You have either juggernauts with mortal riders or juggernauts with demon riders. And we'll start with the demon riders first. These are called Bloodcrushers, and in order to take them as battle line, you must have a skullmaster general. Their stat line is pretty okay at 8-inch move, 10 bravery, 4 wounds, and a 4-up save. Their melee profile is mixed. They have the pretty subpar Hellblades that the Bloodletters have, and then they have the Brazen Hooves, which is actually pretty good for a mount attack. They have the Brazen Hooves have 1-inch reach, 3 attacks, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, no rend, and 1 damage. The Hellblade is the exact same as the regular Bloodletters Hellblade stat line. 1 in 10 can have the icon, which returns 1 model on a battle shock roll of 1. Not 1 in 10, 1 in 3. 1 in 3 can have a horn, which forces enemies to reroll battle shock rolls of 1. And 6 is to hit with the Hellblade, deal mortal wounds, similar to the basic Bloodletters. But here's what makes them interesting. They deal 1 mortal wound on the charge per model that charges on a 2+. And if the model has 6 or more, or if the unit has 6 or more models, the damage is D3. Now this is really powerful, and as far as I'm aware, it's one of the more powerful damage on charge abilities for a cavalry unit. And that makes them interesting. It's a pretty good ability to have. It makes them stand out a bit on their otherwise lackluster stats. They're a demonic heavy cavalry. and I think that they're best used as to cycle charge enemies with high armor, so you can do those mortal wounds and kind of get through high armor enemies with mortal wounds. To maximize the efficientness of them, I would take in squads of 6 to 9. I don't normally say this, but I think the larger unit sizes do great because of that damage on the charge. The more units you can get charging, the more mortal wounds you can put through. And honestly, I was pretty surprised with these. I think that they're a good unit. And if you like Khorne demons, this is definitely one to look at picking up. Next, we have the Mighty Skullcrushers. These have to have a Lord of Khorne on Juggernaut General in order to take his battle line. They have a similar stat line to the Demon Riders with 8-inch move, 6 bravery, 5 wounds, and a 3-up save. They have the Ensorcelled Axes, which is 1 attack, 1-inch reach, 3 attacks, 4 for the leader, 3s to hit, 3s to wound, no rend, 1 damage. And of course the Goreglaive, we've seen this weapon profile before. It has 1-inch reach, 3 attacks, 4 for the leader, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, 1 rend, and 1 damage, as well as the same Brazen Hooves ability as the Demon Riders. 1 in 3 can have a banner, which gives a +2 to their bravery. 1 in 3 can have a horn, which gives +1 to run and charge. And you can equip with either Goreglaives or the axes. And they have the exact same mortal wound on the charge on a 2+ as the Demon Riders. So honestly, these are just better Bloodcrushers. They are better in almost every way. What made the Bloodcrushers good was their damage on the charge. They have the exact same ability, and these guys are tankier. They have an additional wound and a higher save, and they have better melee weapons. So they have dual purposes of either being able to stay in melee for longer than the Bloodcrushers and doing that cycle charge of charge, fall back, and then the next opportunity you get charge again to get the damage. I would take these in squads of 9. The maxed out squads of these seem pretty terrifying. Getting all of that damage on the charge that'd be a pretty good bomb unit that you can just throw into a high value target and get rid of it. They also have great defensive stats, making them really appealing to just stick in melee and let them slog it out. And I think these are probably one of the better battle line options available. If you are looking at Blades of Khorne, I would definitely recommend picking up some of these guys. You want them in the at least squad sizes of 6 to get that increased damage on the charge. The jump from 1 damage to D3 damage is pretty significant. It doesn't sound like it, but it's pretty important to have that increase in damage. So that was the Blades of Khorne. Kind of a mixed bag. I think the standout stars are the Mortal Juggernaut Riders and the Khorne Dogs, and then the Blood Warriors. Everything else is kind of give or take. Please let me know what you thought of the battle line options for the Blades of Khorne in the comments below. And if you liked the video, leave a like. If you didn't like it, leave a dislike. If you have any recommendations for future videos, leave that in the comments as well. This has been the Wargrove of Woe, and I'll see you tomorrow.